Guys, Mr. Gagnon here again. Again, the videos are best played at 1.25 speed. So if you go into the settings, you can do that. Google and YouTube tend to slow down the videos. Okay, so I'm going to do two quick mentions here. One of them is something called normal force, and then the other one is something called the free body diagram. And we've been doing both. I just want to reiterate both and do a little bit more explanation on both. So the let's say there's a person here. Okay. Now this person is in space. Okay, this person is floating in space, and so there are no net forces acting on this person. Okay, they're not accelerating. They may be moving, but in reality, you can't tell you're moving unless there's another object next to you. So this person is in a constant state of motion or rest. Okay, no external forces, no accelerations. Now, let's put some make her a girl. Put some solid ground underneath her. Okay, and put her on a planet. Okay, now this solid ground underneath her is holding her and supporting her weight. Now, we know that she has a force of weight, or some cases they call it Fg. Okay, now if this were the only force pulling on this girl, she'd be accelerating downward into the center of the Earth. Now, the cool thing is that she's not. She's having a good day, and there's got to be some sort of balancing force from the surfaces of her feet on the ground. We're going to call this the normal force. Now, there is an in-depth explanation as to what causes the normal force, and I'm going to give you guys just a little hint of that. Okay, let's say I had an electron microscope, and I were to blow up or expand the size of a little section of her foot. Okay, what that would look like we're going to get down to the molecular size. There's the nucleus. We'll say that there are little particles that are going around. Those are called electrons. Okay, so there are small electrons that are going around the nucleus. Okay, and this is the surface of her foot blown up the size of an atom. We'll call this an atom. Now, the ground also has an exploded view, positive nucleus and negative electrons around the nucleus. Now look, here's her foot. Okay, let's say this is the size of the atom around her foot. Let's say this is the size of the atom of the ground. Now look what we have here. We've got an electron here. We've got an electron here. These two electrons, we'll say, they never, ever, 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 ever touch. So these two electrons will never touch each other, leaving a space between the foot and the ground. So the reality is that you've never touched anything in your entire lives. You've actually never come in physical contact with anything scientifically in your entire life. So every time you give somebody a high five, these electrons, yep, they get close, but they do not touch. Kind of a cool little aside there. Now, the deal is that because they repel each other, this atom wants to go this way. This atom wants to go this way. And look at what we have. We've got a repelling force called the normal force. And we've also got our force of weight. These never touch each other. They're pushing up against each other. Okay, so that's where the normal force comes in. Now, super quickly, something called the free body diagram. Okay, by the way, This usually would spurn a class discussion because people would ask me questions like, hey, what about when I take a knife and I cut a piece of meat with it? Am I actually touching the object? And the answer is no, you're not touching the object. You're spreading apart the matter. Okay? So something called the free body diagram is just a dot representation of this person. So let's see what the forces acting on her are. Fw, the weight. Fn, the normal force. Okay, so this would be the free body diagram of that picture. Okay, and then so it just represents a dot being the person. So from now on, you can draw the picture like this. This works. Or more easily, you can get a free body diagram in. Okay?